All right. We are here. Welcome to Carolyn McGraw. Thank you so much for coming today to the Permission to Be Powerful interview series.
Yahoo, we're here.
We're here.
We're doing it.
So I met Carolyn at an event that a fellow sister puts on every year. And we immediately were like, oh, you do hypnotherapy? Oh, that was like our initial meeting point was talking about hypnotherapy. And then we realized that we both work with speakers and we both love helping women discover their voices and really come back home to who they are and share their message in a powerful way. So much like in the last interview, one of my core beliefs is that there is plenty for everyone, that who you resonate with is a deep, like embodied spiritual practice to feel into, like, who are your people that are here to serve you and support you on your journey. And it may be multiple different people. And so I'm so blessed that Carolyn is here, despite the fact that we have so many commonalities. We're also very different human beings with our own unique journeys and experiences. And I'm so blessed that you are here. And I'm so like, I really want to hear about the spoken word piece. It's just like, it's something I've always wanted to do. And I want to pick your brain about that.
Okay.
But for now, I'm going to read Carolyns Bio and then we're going to jump right on in. So Carolyn helps others who want to express their true self and align with their purpose so that they can confidently build their business as a speaker or author. Carolyn is a life coach, a medical intuitive, and a hypnotherapist. She has a master's degree in education and taught students out of gangs with her Heal It, Write It, Speak It program. I love that title. She's a transformational speaker, an international best-selling author, and has a TV show called Life on Purpose on the Women's Broadcast Network channel. She was on a ballroom dance team in college. Everyone is born with a God-given gift to share with the world, and one of those gifts might be in sharing your personal story of overcoming a challenge that could inspire someone's life for the better. Yes. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. We're definitely sisters from another mister.
Yes. It's so exciting to meet someone else that thinks like you and has a vision, and you've helped me, you've inspired me. I've gone to your training that was powerful and empowering.
Thank
And,
you.
looking forward to, like you said, it's not about the competition, it's about the collaboration.
Yes.
And the synergy that you can create in bringing your communities and tribes together.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. It's everything. It's everything. It's just such a different dynamic of rather than it being a hierarchy, it being like just this like floating support, like a floaty in the water, right? That everybody can get onto. Like, I love it.
Yes.
I love it. So Carolyn, let's like dive right into the deep end of the pool. I know that many of us who are service-based practitioners and coaches and healers, and we do what we do for a reason. There is some deep wounding in ourselves or a story that is deeply associated with why we are choosing the particular focus that we are choosing. So I would love to hear any part, just kind of let it bubble up from within, like any part of your story that really is feeling called to be spoken to today.
Yes. And it was like you asking me, inviting me to be on here actually got the wheels going about some stories that I didn't think about or was deep down. So I just love when you say yes to opportunities, things connect and, reach out more to others. And so that's what happened. As I was thinking about this theme of power and standing in your power and, what kept my power, on low drive, maybe, fear, judgment, people saying, oh, who do you think you are, that keeps us playing small. We don't want that criticism and judgment.
Yeah.
And I had an experience last year that opens me up to realize and break through. And I was actually at an entrepreneur networking event, and there happened to be some celebrities there, like the Shark Tank.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And Forbes Riley was there, and she was on the stage, and I said, I know she's going to call on me to come up stage. I know it. And what do you know? She came right down to the audience, pulled me up, and she wanted to do like a process, like, a little therapeutic process in front of 100 people. And I said, oh no, I have the microphone, and she's asking the question, what do you want? And then I would say, and then she said, what do you really want? And she would keep going deeper, like you would do, go
right.
deeper, right?
Yes.
And till I get to, I don't know what it was, exactly what it was, but, I want to make a difference. I want to, prevent suicide. I want to, but she kept going. And then she said, what's stopping you? What's in the way? What is that voice? Where's that message coming from you that's keeping you from doing that?
Right.
And then the tears came.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I don't want to, do this out loud. But I looked out in the audience, and they were crying too when I began to speak. And what came to me, and I said, it's my father. Yeah. And I think so many people resonated with, trying to get the approval of their father, of making their parents proud of them. Yeah. And so that I know that resonated. But for me, it was, I remember about 7 or 8, and I said something about my perspective of something I wanted to do in the world with my life. And my dad said something like, it's not safe to shine so brightly.
Wow. So those words actually came out of his mouth.
That's the words that
or that you interpret it. Right. Yeah.
And it was like, stay under the radar, because it's not safe. Wow. It's not safe to be seen and heard. And as I'm saying that, I'm like, oh, but I knew that he did it out of love and protection.
Right. Of course.
And when I went back and then thinking about his life, well, he was from East Germany. He escaped. Yeah. He escaped with his life to his freedom. He was they recruited him into the Hitler's Youth. His mother said, no way, but they were trying to, push that on him. His father died in the war, trying to save a fellow comrade. And that's was his life. That's what he learns. Yeah. It's, you gotta, protect yourself. So that's what he was sharing with me. And that was something I had to overcome. That's something I had to realize, that's my dad's story.
Yes.
That's not my story.
Yeah. I just heard, I work with these 2 spiritual teachers, and they were talking about our imprinting, both our family imprinting, but also our kind of ancestral imprinting, and just how we do that. And I think we all do it, all genders. I think we do this. I think women may do it a little bit differently. But we take on the karma and the wounding of our parents because we think if we take it on, then we'll be loved, and then we'll be seen, and we'll be supported. And some of us know from a very, very early age that that's not right. You know what I mean? It's like we can feel it in our little bodies. Like, we know that this isn't right, but we don't know how else to do it other than how our family is modeling it for us. So that's what we do. We take on the pain of our parents, and we take on the stories of our parents. I remember the day that I realized that I was holding a story. I've done a lot of work around my family. I'm a therapist. I had to go to therapy to be a therapist, I've done my work. But we did this family constellation thing, and she's like, where's your dad? And I was like, he's behind me. And she's like, okay, what's he doing? I said, he's looking at the floor. She says, oh, so you need to go up to him and say, Dad, I see it, but I can't carry that for you anymore. And I was like, what? And then she said, this is the one that just like blew my mind. She says, Michelle, you've got to tell him, Dad, they're dead. You have to let them go. and I didn't know anything about family constellation, so I didn't realize that that's usually what it means, is that if someone's looking down at the ground or they're looking off, then a piece of them is actually over there in the past, or, you know, but when you're looking down, it's you're kind of in the land of the dead, because that's where your psyche is. And I just lost it. I did not realize I was carrying that story. Like, oh, so powerful to stop and think about those stories that we're carrying from our parents.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's part of the work I do is generational healing
Yeah.
and breaking the change. And talk about power as we come into our families to break those chains of abuse, addiction, anger, whatever our great grand. That's what I do is I use kinesiology to muscle test how many generations back on your mother's side. Like if someone comes to me for anxiety, I can pinpoint it if it's generational. Your mother's side, 3 generations back, something happened, some depression, and then anxiety, and it's passed down, and then it's going to keep on going until someone
Someone has to stop it. Yeah.
forgive and let go, and unconditional love. That's the healing.
Yeah. Yeah. Bam. Right there. Right there. And what a blessing that there are people out in the world like you who understand that dynamic and can also just, you know, there's something very just like practical about it. Like some people may put it off into the land of the woo, you know, but the reality is it's a very practical thing to be able to just like go back and like, okay, there's where it was. Like, let's turn and realize that all, like you said, all of the behaviors that our parents had were out of love. That was their intention. They didn't know that it was harmful. They didn't know that it was damaging or it was perpetuating something that's no longer useful or healthy, especially in this day and age. And so we can turn back with love.
Yes.
And just
yeah.
release. How beautiful. How beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yay.
I
So
have a passion for healing. You know, it's and helping other people realize their own gifts. Everyone has a gift.
yeah.
And those gifts, when we use them, are healing for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's speaking about your experience, if it's writing, or if it's creating some arts. You know, art is such a therapeutic in whatever form it is to release your emotions and to inspire other people, and to find what your thing is that brings you joy, and then brings others joy through that.
I call it the secret sauce. What's
Yes.
your secret sauce?
Well, speaking of secret sauce, I would say I want to hear what yours is, and I'll tell you what mine is. It's intention, deciding what you want to have for your day, for your experience in each activity that you do, and then listening and following your intuition or action steps inspire, and then the inspiration, you know, being, you know, connected to your own spirit, to divine, for what is the most important thing for you to do, what is the next thing for you to work on, develop, or maybe it's going in a different direction than you thought you would go. Intention, intuition, inspiration.
I love it. I love it. So it's funny. I've never really thought about that particular way of playing with it. I would say that my secret sauce is first and foremost being present with what is, not what could be, not what used to be, just right here, right now, and bringing it all back into the body. And I know for myself, especially, you know, as a sexual abuse survivor and, you know, woman who's, you know, feared for my body, and the same messages, you know, around like, you can't shine too brightly. It's dangerous to do so. So you better cover it up. You better shrink it down and all of that. What I've noticed is that my biggest healing journey is recognizing that being in my body is the safest place for me to be. Because when I'm really in my body and I'm really present, I'm really aware of everything. I'm aware of my sensations. I'm aware of those little nudges. I'm aware of the things that are pulling me off. I'm aware of the energy in the room. I'm aware of all of these things, but I can only do that when I'm actually in my body.
Grounded,
exactly. Present, aware. Yeah.
And when you were talking about that, I thought of acceptance, acceptance of
Yes.
this is how your life is. This is the situation. And when you accept it, you can move through it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I even call it radical acceptance, because it's like sometimes it does feel radical. Like how the fuck can I accept that? Like that's too big. That's too much. It's like actually you can. You can radically accept that these are the facts of the situation. This is the result of the situation. This is how you feel about the situation. These are the stories that are getting touched upon in this situation. Those are all true. And when you can name it and claim it, then you can do something with it. But it's when we are spinning with it and we can't acknowledge these things, or, you know, that we kind of lose it. And it's just coming back again to the body, to presence. This is how it is. I can radically accept this. I choose to radically accept this so that I can actually do something with it, so that I'm not feeling powerless in that experience.
So that brings me to the questions that I ask the people I work with is, tell me what you don't want first. Let's get that out of the way. What don't you want anymore? What's interfering? What's draining your energy? And then I have them make a list of what energizes you. What do you want more of in your life? The values, the qualities. And that's where the intention comes. I'm intending to let go of these things that are draining me and frustrating me, and I'm intending to step into more fun, play, love, peace.
Yeah.
And so I get their mindset focused on thinking about what you really want.
Yes. 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 So how did you discover what you really wanted? Like, what was your process in noticing? Number one, I mean, the transformational moment you had on stage, I think is really important. Obviously, that was a catalyzing moment for you to recognize, like, oh my goodness, this is where this really comes from. Like, but what was the process of you reclaiming? What did that look like for you to come back to your voice and reclaim it?
Hanging out with people like you who are doing the same and being that example, you know, having mentors, having coaches that I feel that support of they're believing in me. You know, maybe my family and friends are saying, oh, you know, come on, really? You know, that's, that those kind of voices. And when you have somebody that's like on your side and like, go, you know, do it. That was huge for me, hiring my first coach, and opened me up to incredible opportunities I never would have had, such as getting my own TV show because of that. Yeah,
I want to hear all about that. How'd you get that? Like, what is, I've never heard of it.
This is a good story.
Yeah.
So, my coach, she was all about intuition also. And she goes, it's my intuition to invite you to a mastermind. It's like a, I don't know, it was like $10,000 mastermind. And she was just inviting me in, to fill a spot there. And it was in LA. And so I, had to drive. But it was like the next day. She goes, why don't you come? And my intuition said, yes, you need to go. You need to be there. So I knew there was something really important. So I arrived in this group of very highly successful professional people on their second business, on their second career, FBI agent, National Geographic photographer. We had the Guinness Book of World Records for memory. And we had my favorite actor, his mother. Vince Vaughn's mother was there. And so I feel like a kindergartner with these people. I had just started my business, and I was like, oh man, but I knew it's good to rub shoulders.
Right.
See how they are, and connect with them. And so I just I had to stop that mind. Like, I'm not where these people are. They're better than me. I had to stop.
Yes.
And I did. I took a breath, and I'm just like, okay, just, how can I help them? How can I support them? Maybe there's something. So it was Vince Vaughn's mother, Shay Vaughn, who got up and said, I'm looking for TV hosts. And the first thought in my mind was, oh, well, I have to lose 40 pounds before I could do that.
Why do we do that to ourselves?
Yes. Here's the amazing part. The second thing she said is, and you don't have to lose weight, and you can just do it how you are. You don't have to be perfect. I said, oh, she's talking to me.
Wow.
So I was jumping up and down. It's like, I could be a TV host. I always wanted to be like Oprah.
Me too.
Yeah.
She's on my vision board. I didn't even realize it.
And so I went with it. And my favorite theme is what we're talking about is, your life purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? What led you to your passion? And so I would interview entrepreneurs and authors and artists because I was fascinated. That might be the book I write, the synchronicities leading you to your mission.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me because I kind of see people's gifts. It's one of my talents, is seeing their gifts and then what they're meant to do with that. And that was my experience teaching high school with those kids out of jail and gangs, that I was able to see their gifts and encourage them to share it.
I love that. Yeah, same. That's been when I did self-revelatory performances with teenagers and they went on stage to share their stories. It was a very similar process. It was like, I like to say that I hear what's not being said. I feel what hasn't been brought to the surface. And I notice those gifts that are like just below the surface that haven't been acknowledged, like those golden shadow parts that haven't been accepted and acknowledged and have been devalued. And I help bring those to the surface so that people can remember, their essence, remember who they are, remember what gifts they hold. And it's my favorite thing on the planet to watch someone come in and just like hold space for their own emergence. Like, it's just such beautiful. It's like, we get to do this, Carolyn. Like, we get to get paid for this shit.
I know. And we're going to do something together and do that.
I know. I can't wait.
That reminds me of a little story. Funny thing of kind of how I found my purpose too at a young age was, I started speaking very young, like 12 years old. I'm speaking, to a large group. And I remember a woman calling me hours later and thanking me and telling me what a great job I did and how she was inspired by my message. That hit my heart of, wow, she took the time to call me and say that. That was so powerful, an encourager in my life. Yeah. I decided I wanted to be an encourager of other people's talents.
Yes.
So when I was about 16, my brother was about 8 or 9. And I noticed at the dinner table, he would be so funny. He would be cracking jokes and we'd be laughing hysterically. And every night he got funnier, and we were just like so enjoying laughter. And I said to him, you have a gift. You make people happy. You make them laugh. You have a gift. Well, guess what profession he chose? He became a professional comedian.
Stand-up comedy, yeah.
Now he's been on TV and movies. He's done quite a bit and making a living. And I asked him not too long ago, I was like, do you remember when I said that to you? Of course he didn't remember, but I'll take a little bit of credit to encourage. Actually, he's been in some big movies. And I'm just thrilled with his talent. And it's interesting because he's maybe introvert, on the shy side, but the stage, the performance, that's his therapy. Yeah. And that's what I saw with my students. It was therapy to share their story. Yeah. And maybe they'd never shared it before, and to have their classmates respond and empathize and really be seen and heard for the first time in their lives was transformational.
And they learned, maybe not consciously, but they learned the valuable lesson of vulnerability is our superpower.
Yes.
That is what creates connection. It's so simple, but it's such a hard lesson to learn until you've actually had that visceral experience with it, where you took the risk of opening your heart and speaking your truth and gritting your teeth and just like, waiting for the fallout, and have people call you and say, thank you so much.
Yes.
Or have someone, I had a mother walk up to me, and actually her daughter walked up to me dragging her mother by the arm. And she pulled her and she looks over at me and she says, "That's how I feel, Mom," and turns around and walks away. And her mother just is looking at me with tears running down her face, and she gave me a hug, and then she turned around to go take care of her daughter. And just those, like, who knows how long it would have taken for her to share with her mother her story.
I have a similar experience too with that. In that mentoring my students, we actually ended up going to churches and schools and sharing our story of how
beautiful.
we use poetry therapy to express their feelings. What do you want to heal in your heart? And they would write. And then I said, now share it and share your story. And just the real, the raw, the authentic was so inspirational that the people in the audience wanted to go write a poem also. They wanted to go write. And a mother came up to one of my students and said, my child just went through a little bit of healing, that, they struggled with their father like you did. And you expressing that just helped them let go of the anger in their heart towards their father. Yeah. And to see that we have that power. We have that power to use our words and our message and our experience to help someone else on the path is so empowering. We're empowered, they're empowered, and it's just joyful work.
It is. And it's such a visceral way to flip the victim story into a story of empowerment. That there's such a difference between when we're still stuck in that victim story and we keep sharing it over and over and over again, and we're waiting for some kind of magic validation or some kind of whatever it is that we're searching for. But when we've come to the other side of that story and we're able to share the whole arc from beginning, the whole hero's journey or heroine's journey, all the way through to this is what lesson I learned from this. This is the magic that I gained from this. This is the end result of my experience and what I'm taking away. Lets people know that the arc is possible. That they don't have to stay stuck in that particular story. It's still true. It's still valid. I remember I went through this period where it was like, I felt like I wasn't allowed to have joy in my life, because if I had joy, then I would have to dismiss the abuse, and I would have to dismiss the heartache, and I would have to, like, I couldn't carry both stories at the same time, I thought. And it wasn't until I'd actually healed those stories and came back around to say, like, I don't have to identify by my victim stories. Like, those are just like all of the other stories in my life. There's magical stories, there's juicy stories, there's stories of love, there's stories of heartache, there's all of this stuff. Like, why do I have to focus on these, like, her stories in order to feel validated or heard or understood? Like, you can't know me until you know the depths of this. No, it's not accurate.
I made a big mistake in sharing a story too soon, because and this is what happened. I mean, people, I got compliments on my speaking, but I love people who tell you like it is. And I had one guy I was sitting next to, I came back, I said, well, how was it? And he goes, well, you kind of sound like the victim. And I realized, thank you for sharing that. I realized I hadn't gone through the whole way of my story. Right. It wasn't ready to share because I hadn't learned all the lessons. I hadn't. Yeah. And you know what, Michelle, it took 10 years. It took 10 years before I could tell it. Yeah. And have my happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my happy ending. And then the power in that this is what I learned. This is the tools that I used. This is how you can do it. The message of hope.
Yes.
And the perspective shift.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so big. It's so big. It's amazing to me how it feels like there was a good chunk of time, and maybe it was just because I wasn't paying attention, but it felt like there was this good chunk of time where story just got lost. Like we weren't as focused on it as I think we are now. And I think part of the reason that we are now is because we're fucking done with this fake news. We're done with fake, guru celebrity coaches and, all of this stuff. Like, we want to be able to feel somebody. and like you said, to know like, wow, they did it. Like maybe I can just kind of be with that, and I can learn how to do that too, you know. It's everything. Our stories are everything, and yet people are so terrified. Like, how do you help a speaker? So let me ask you this: how do you help a speaker who has got a great story? They've got all of the arcs, sounds freaking great, and they cannot get vulnerable?
That is a good question. Well, to me, that means there's some repression going on. They need to do their emotional homework first. They need, and to me, it's what we said, accepting what happened, forgiving yourself, forgiving those who hurt you, and loving unconditionally. And when you can decide, make your intention, I'm going to let go of this, that then, that's another thing with monotone. People speaking in monotone is
Right.
also a sign of repression.
Right.
And sure, they're not going to make the impact. They're not going to make that connection with people. And so it's almost like a waste of time if
It really
you
is.
need to stop and go home and do your homework.
Yeah.
Hire somebody, hire somebody to help you break through.
Yeah.
And then I see so many women when I go in networking that really have a hard time just introducing themselves.
I know.
And saying what they do.
I
And
know. It's like all of the personality drains out of their bodies, and they're just like, I do massage. There's just no like energy. There's no, their personality is not there.
So I developed a confidence workshop, having more confidence, but confidence really is about your self-esteem,
Right.
how you feel about yourself, your self-worth. And then so the work I do is, let's go back to, what did your mother say? What did your father say? Where are those wounds? And let's do the work there.
Yeah.
And, is it the past boyfriend, the past husband also, the pattern that so many women, like I help them unleash their voice.
Yeah.
Like they're just stuck here, that they're afraid to speak. They haven't been encouraged or accepted to voice their opinion. So we do that kind of work and then they shine.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. And what you're speaking to is something that, that I love, and that also drives me crazy, is this resistance to doing the work. Like, I know when I first became a coach and was starting to work on like, well, I want to help people with speaking, and I want to help women show up powerfully and all of this. Like, really the encouragement I got is like, well, you need something concrete. Like, you need to tell them you're going to help them write their speech, or you need a front door to meet a front door need. Like, what do they need right now? And I heard that and I understood that, but there was this other piece of me that's like, yeah, but they also need to know they've got to do some fucking work. Like, you have to do the emotional work. You have to do the excavation. You have to get back into your body and get comfortable with being uncomfortable and all of these things. And it sounds great to offer them this thing at the beginning that's going to be their like entry point, or their, this is what you're going to walk away with. But I think there's almost like a moral imperative to let them know, like, we're going to go into the deep end. Like, this is not wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I'm going to help you, you just fill in the blanks and then you stand up on stage and do your thing. Like, there's going to be some depth here.
And exactly. And the beauty and the power of that is your health improves, your relationships improve, you reach your goals easier. Like, everything improves when you can go there. And it takes courage to go there.
It does. It does. It does. Yeah. Yeah.
I love what Eleanor Roosevelt said. She said, do the thing that you think you cannot do. Because that's where all the blessings are being held.
Exactly.
Once you just start going into it, just like the doors open, opportunities and your wildest dreams.
It's so funny. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, how when COVID hit, right? We all had to do things that we've never had to do before. We all had to get real creative, real fast, in how we were going to stay connected with our clients, how we were going to stay connected with our families. What are we going to do? And when, as humans, our back is up against the wall, we make miracles happen. We create things we could have never imagined in a million years if we weren't pushed into that corner. And so the goal, or the juice, the fun, is like, how do we trick ourselves into believing that we're in that corner before we actually have to get there, so that we can break through those self-imposed limiting beliefs that keep us believing that we can't.
Well, that word is gratitude, being grateful and accepting what is. And when you're focused on the gratitude, you can't be anxious, you can't be depressed.
Right. Right.
So gratitude to me is the key to abundance.
Yeah. 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 It's like yoga. Come back to the breath. And in our work, it's come back to the gratitude, come back to the acceptance, come back to the present. Yeah.
And another thing I work with people is, you know, the ability to say no.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That doesn't work for me. No, thank you. I don't accept that behavior. No, thank you to the things interfering with their happiness.
Yeah.
And teaching them to say yes to themselves. Yes, I love that. I want to do that. Giving, what you said, giving permission to say no, and to say yes to, saying no to yourself is saying yes to yourself.
Yes.
Saying no to others things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I could just like, that's where you can see all that throat chakra stuff, right? It's like some people might get good at telling their story, but then if you dig a little bit deeper, it's like, how good are you at saying no? How good are you at setting boundaries? How good are you at recognizing even that this isn't working for you, you know, and then speaking your truth about it?
And another thing that comes up for me when I was thinking about all this feeling was perfectionism.
Yeah.
And I remember learning, you know, don't show your emotions. Don't, you know, if you're unhappy, don't show that to people. You just put on a happy face.
Only happy emotions. Yep. Yep.
And so now I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I couldn't show my emotions in front of people. And I'm like, hey, this is messed up. This is kind of messed up. How do I do this?
Yeah.
And then letting go of, even to this day, you know, when I'm speaking, I want it to be perfect. I want to and I like can make myself sick over, you know, hours and hours and hours of researching, practicing, and trying that, you know, that takes the authenticity away. And also people don't relate to that. I mean, I've had someone say, I don't like her because she seems too perfect.
Yes. Yes. I've heard that so many times. And I'm thinking of a very particular person when I asked you the question earlier about like someone who has every bullet point of their script perfect, but it's too perfect. Like you couldn't see her, you couldn't feel her, you couldn't get down beneath the layers of the story to like, how did this actually impact her? You know, and how can I relate to that impact so that I can do something with that, or I can change my mind about something, or I can get up and I can buy her program so I can transform my life, or whatever it might be.
So the solution to that kind of thing to me is helping them get out of their head and into their hearts.
Yeah.
And connect here. And when I help people tell their story, it's like I want them to embody that story, go back to those emotions that you were feeling and portray that, because that's what connects to other people's hearts is like your emotions. And you're not telling the story, you're like reliving the story.
Yes.
In a more powerful way from your present self of, this is what I learned. This is the awesomeness of what I gained and where I am now because this happened to me.
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, is just get into the heart space and, you know, connecting to your audience's heart too. Yeah. You know, what is it that they need to hear, and being open to receive that inspiration of going off script.
Yes. I just did a training with Les Brown, and I was just speaking in my last interview about, you know, watching his mastery at being able to take somebody else's story, like just these like 5 bullet points, and weaving this like, you know, this 5-minute speech that just knocks your socks off. And the thing he kept pushing is like, you know, you have to let go. You just have to let go. You just have to show up. The stories are all there. What is your, same thing, what is your intention? Who are you speaking to? What is the point of your conversation with these folks? And then just show up and do it. And my perfectionist definitely gets in the way at times with that. It's like, yeah, but I've got a time limit. Like, what if I don't get to that particular point in my 8 minutes or in my 3 minutes or my whatever, you know, and I get so caught up in this time dynamic. So I've been doing a lot of work with myself around time. I've been doing a lot of tapping around time, a lot of self-hypnosis around time, around, you know, just like stop letting that be a constraint. Trust. My body knows what 3 minutes is like. My body knows what 7 minutes is like. Here are the 3 things I must say. And the rest of it is gravy. The rest of it can be made up. The rest of it can just naturally bubble to the surface. And,
I love that. Like having your little ways to help you step into your powerful self.
mm-hmm.
I worked with a fashion designer, and she, her, you know, hero was Coco Chanel. And she would use red lipstick. My client would, she would put red lipstick on before she was going to speak to an audience, and kind of embody that confidence, that grace.
I love it.
This person that she's, you know, admiring the qualities that she has. And I absolutely love that. Like everyone could have their own little, like, just embody those qualities.
Absolutely.
Just hope you get on that first, you know, step onto the stage, you know, that first word out. And then there's a great quote by her, Coco, that said, every girl should be 2 things: who they want to be and who they are.
Yes. I love it. Absolutely.
That's what we're talking about, right? Like,
yes,
being unafraid to be who we really are, and not being sensitive to the criticism and judgment that will come.
It will. It will.
It will, because jealousy. It's always jealousy.
Projection.
Yeah.
All of it. Yeah.
And so, you know, as we're working on that for ourselves, we're learning it so then we can help our people, our friends, overcome that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I call it being unshameable, like an unshameable and unshakable speaker. That when you are really speaking your truth, you're going to get stuff thrown back at you. You're going to get energy thrown back at you. The people who are not ready to hear it are going to have a reaction. And that when you can stand up there and know that you're not speaking to them, you're speaking to those who are ready to hear, and you're focusing all of your attention and energy on them, and just letting the other energy just kind of bounce right back off. You know who you're here to talk to, you know what your message is, and that's what you focus your attention and energy on.
That's a great point that I learned a very valuable lesson on, of realizing, you know, when I felt rejection, when I'm presenting, here's what I do, that it wasn't about, you know, a personal rejection. It was about, they're not ready. They're not, or they're not looking for this, or, you know, and I kept talking to the wrong people. I was like, networking. I was like, here I am. And, you know, just like this, I'm like, oh, and it was like, it's not my tribe. It's not my tribe.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. And it's such, I mean, because people can get crushed. People can decide they're not going to do it anymore, because they aren't willing to practice that reframe of like, well, what else could be happening here? What are all of the other possibilities? And one of those possibilities is, these just aren't my folks. Like, one of the first things you learn as a transformational speaker is to be really good at interviewing the person you're speaking for. Who is in this audience? Are these even my people? Because if they're not my people, I don't need to be here.
Waste of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. Talk about using your throat chakra to talk about what you want and what you.
Right. Yes.
Starts with the phone call to get the booking. Yeah. So, any last nugget, story, anything that you want to touch into, feel into, that you would love to leave the audience with?
Yes. You know, I believe that everyone's born with an innate God-given gift, and that the challenges that we go through are to ignite that, to help us through that, to you know, force us to develop what we are, you know, makes us unique. And then to be able to get to that point where you turn around and want to give back to those on the path behind you that are struggling with the same thing. And that's where the joy is, and your story is, and that there are people waiting to hear your story, and you can change lives, even save lives, by having the courage to step up, step out, and shine your light and share your message. Especially right now, there's so much suicide, even more suicide with people, you know, going through this. It's and that's what I've created, an event for youth, Hope and Wellness virtual summit for youth in preventing some suicide, and having youth speakers sharing their story of how they overcame through music, story, spoken word, poem.
Love it.
And yeah, so I'm looking for people to connect with. And I also have one for women. I'm doing one for women on practitioners, holistic practitioners, to teach techniques to help other women, empower them, inspire them.
Yay.
So have you on there.
Yay. So definitely put your links in the chat when once we finished with the video, and let people know how to reach out to you, how to find out more about what you're up to. And we'll also put, for those of you who are on the membership page, or if you want to be on the membership page, we have free offers on there from all of the speakers that come on to this interview series, where they can offer something, a chance for you to get to know their work a little bit deeper, or set up a session with them, or whatever it is that they're offering. And so that's where you would go for that particular nugget, but we'll just drop Carolyn's information in the chat so that you can reach out and possibly speak.
I just created this new thing. I got a special here. Soul alignment. It is getting clear on your direction, your path, your next step, breaking through the fears, the limitations, working on that family story and releasing that, and really creating your power statement, your purpose, and letting your superpowers come out. So I got that going. I'll put that in there. Would love to share that with everyone that resonates with that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for showing up, for being your amazing, beautiful self, and using your voice to touch others and help them find theirs.
Thank you, Michelle. You're awesome.
Right back at ya. All right. Thank you. Thank you.